Hey guys, here is our next lesson, which is one-sided limits on a graph. So before we did them with a table, now we're going to be doing them with a graph. So that's all we're doing. We're finding one-sided limits of a function from a graph. So one-sided limits on a graph just means that you're tracing it from one side. If it's from the positive side, it's from the right-hand side. If it's from the left-hand side, it's from the negative side. So just remember that. We're not going to go over two-sided limits today. We're going to go over that later this week. To evaluate it, you're just tracing it up to whatever value of x, and then you're noting what value y is at. So for our first example, the limit of f of x as x goes to 2 from the positive side or the right-hand side. So we're going to find x equals 2. And I'm just going to draw a dotted line up and down at x equals 2 just so I know where it is. So I'm going to be tracing this graph, and by the graph I mean the lines that are drawn, not the x and y coordinates. I'm going to be tracing this graph from the right-hand side until I get as close as possible to 2. So if I'm tracing it, I'm going to get as close as possible to 2. And I notice that as x gets close to 2, y is getting close to 0. So this is our value of y equals 0. So that means the limit of f of x as x goes to 2 from the right side is 0. Example 2. Same as before, now we're going from the left-hand side, so that limit of f of x as x goes to 2 from the negative side or left-hand side. So I'm going to try to be getting as close as possible to x equals 2, and I'm going to notice what happens to y. So if I am tracing it, I'm going to get as close as possible, and I notice again that y is really close to 0. So the limit of f of x as x goes to 2 from the negative side is 0. Sometimes you'll have limits like that will agree. So we've already talked about doing both sides. Sometimes you'll have them where they agree, sometimes they don't. On to example 3. So now we have the limit of f of x as x goes to 1 from the positive side. So here we're going to note where x equals 1 is. And we're going from the positive side, so from the right-hand side. So I'm going to be tracing the graph till I get as close as possible to x equals 1. And I notice that as I get to x equals 1, y is getting close to positive 2. So the limit of f of x as x goes to 1 from the positive side is 2. Example number 4. So we're doing the limit as f of x, or the limit of f of x as x goes to 1 from the negative side. So I'm just going to take note of where x equals 1 is. And I'm going to trace the graph now from the left-hand side. So I'm tracing from the left-hand side, and I notice that the value of y is close to negative 1. So the limit of f of x as x goes to 1 from the negative side is negative 1. So your review, you're going to trace from the indicated side. So if it's positive, you're going to trace from the right. If it's negative, you're going to trace from the left. The limit is the y value. So the limit is always the y value as you get close to x. So look at wherever x is. If there's a solid point there, then it's just your xy coordinate. If there's not a solid point there, then that's when you're having to do the tracing in your head. And don't forget to actually answer the question. Don't just trace the graph and leave it there. Write down your answer. Does it equal 2? Does it equal infinity? Does it equal 0? Give me an answer. Sometimes it's infinity, but usually when we're tracing on a graph, we don't want them to be infinity. So I don't think any of the ones that you will come across will be infinity. To do your check-in, send me a message either via Remind, email, or Zoom, and let me know how things are going. Let me know if you have any questions and give me a brief summary of the lesson. Your assignment is posted. Make sure you click mark as done after you get a score of at least 70%. Have a wonderful day and look forward